You are 24 years old, standing in a bathroom with the door locked, staring at a phone screen that shows a bank balance of $340. Not because you don't earn more, you earn plenty. But every dollar that lands in your account gets a phone call within 6 hours. Your mother, asking why you spent $60 at a store she doesn't recognize. Your father, wanting the login to help you budget. You have not had a private thought about your own money since you were 16 years old, and tonight, sitting on the edge of a bathtub with the water running so no one can hear you breathing hard, you decide that ends now. You don't say anything to anyone. That's rule 1, and you haven't even written it down yet, but your body already knows it. The moment you say something out loud, it becomes a negotiation. And negotiations in your house are not conversations. They are audits. You start small, almost pathetically small. A new email address on a laptop at the public library, because the home Wi-Fi logs every device that connects to it, and you know this because your father showed you the router app once, proudly, like it was a parenting tool instead of a leash. You create the account under a name that isn't quite yours. Close enough to answer to if someone calls it out loud, far enough that no search engine connects it to the person your family thinks they own. The first paycheck you redirect is small. $290 from a freelance graphic design gig you've been doing quietly on weekends. Technically, your money, morally your money, but functionally not, because if it lands in your real account, it becomes a line item someone else questions. You open a new bank account 2 towns over, in a branch where nobody recognizes your last name, using the new email, a new phone number bought with cash from a prepaid kiosk. You feel your hands shake filling out the form, not from fear of getting caught, from the terror of how good it feels to have something that is only yours. You go home that night and eat dinner at the table like nothing happened. Your mother asks about your day. You say it was fine. You have already become someone who lies fluently, the way most people learn a second language, out of necessity, not desire. 3 weeks in, you understand something about your family you'd always felt but never had language for. Control was never about money. Money was just the leash they could measure. The real control was the constant surveillance dressed up as love, the daily check-ins that felt like affection and functioned like interrogation. You start seeing it everywhere once you name it. The way your mother just happens to look over your shoulder when you're texting. The way your father asks to see receipts for a coffee, not because he needs the $8, but because he needs to know you still answer to him. You begin building the second self methodically now, not out of impulse, but architecture. A second phone, kept in a shoebox at the back of your closet, powered on only in the 15 minutes between when your parents fall asleep and when you do. A second name on a mailbox rental 3 miles from your apartment complex, paid for in cash every month, so there's no card trail. You research things you never thought you'd need to know. How mail forwarding works. How to build credit under an LLC without your legal name showing up on public filings. How an irrevocable trust can hold assets in a way that even a subpoena would struggle to trace back to you personally, though you tell yourself, half laughing in the dark, that you're being paranoid, that no one's coming after you with a subpoena. You are just a 24-year-old trying to keep $300. Except, it stops being $300 fast. By month 2, the freelance work picks up. A referral turns into a retainer client paying $1,800 a month for ongoing design work. All of it routes through the shadow account now. Your real, visible income, the one your family monitors, stays exactly the same. Same job, same paycheck, same predictable Tuesday deposit they've watched for years. You become an expert at living 2 financial lives simultaneously, one performed for an audience, one real and growing in silence. The performance is exhausting in ways you didn't anticipate. You still ask your father for gas money some weeks, not because you need it, but because refusing would raise a question you're not ready to answer. You take the folded 20 from his hand and thank him, and some nights you sit in your car afterward and just breathe, because the acting never stops. Every dinner, Every family group chat, every "how's work going" is a line reading, and you are terrified of one day forgetting your own script. Month 4 is when the first real scare happens. Your mother finds a bank statement, not yours, a piece of junk mail addressed to the fake name at your apartment, misdelivered from the mailbox service. She's visiting, unannounced, the way she always does, treating boundaries like suggestions. She holds up the envelope and asks who this person is. Your heart does something violent in your chest. You say it's a former roommate's mail, still gets forwarded sometimes. You keep meaning to return it. She accepts it. She always accepts explanations that require no further action from her, because deep down she doesn't actually want complications, she wants control, and control doesn't require curiosity. You sit on your bathroom floor after she leaves, and you shake for 20 minutes straight, not crying exactly, just vibrating with the adrenaline of almost. That night, you move the mailbox service to a different name entirely, a name with no phonetic resemblance to your own, learned the hard way that, close enough to answer to, was a mistake born of laziness. By month 6, the second life has a shape. $14,000 sits in the shadow account, more money than you have ever had access to in your entire life, more than you were ever allowed to have access to, because access was always the real currency your family withheld. You haven't spent a cent of it on anything visible. Same car, same clothes, same worn secondhand furniture in your apartment, because furniture is a receipt, and receipts are confessions. You start reading everything you can about the psychology of financial control in families, half research, half self-diagnosis, and you find language for what happened to you. You learn the term financial infantilization. You learn that some families keep adult children financially dependent, not out of necessity, but because dependency is obedience wearing a disguise. You cry the first time you read a description of your exact life, written by a stranger who has never met you, because it means you weren't imagining it, and also because it means it was real. All of it, every single humiliating budget review, disguised as concern. Month 9, you make your boldest move. You quietly negotiate a full-time contract with the client who's been paying you $1,800 a month, bringing it up to $6,200 monthly for exclusive design work, still routed entirely through the second identity. Your visible income at your day job stays static. On paper, to your family, you are exactly the same broke 20-something they've always known. Underneath that paper-thin visible life, you are building an exit that they cannot see, cannot question, and cannot leverage. The loneliness sets in around this time, sharper than you expected. You can't tell your best friend the full truth, because she still lives at home too, still reports back things she overhears to her own mother, who is close with yours, and information in your world has always traveled faster than trust could contain it. You start keeping a private list on your second phone of things you want to say to your parents someday. Unsent letters typed at 1 a.m. that you delete before falling asleep, because writing them down and never sending them is the only safe way to have the conversation. Month 11, the exit plan solidifies. You found an apartment 2 states away, secured entirely under the new identity's paper trail, first and last month's rent paid from the shadow account, lease signed digitally with a name your parents have never heard spoken aloud. You give your day job 2 weeks' notice, framing it as a transfer opportunity, a story boring enough that nobody probes it. You tell your parents the same story, dressed up slightly, a work opportunity out of state, temporary you say, knowing you have no intention of it being temporary at all. Your mother cries. Not for you, you realize with a clarity that almost breaks you, but for the loss of access. She asks how she'll keep an eye on things. You tell her you'll call every week. You do not tell her which number you'll be calling from, that the number she has saved for you will quietly stop being answered within a month, replaced by one she doesn't know exists. The day you leave is anticlimactic in the way real turning points always are. No confrontation, no slammed doors, just a car packed with the visible remains of your old, monitored life, and a bank account waiting 3 states away holding $31,000, built entirely in secret, in silence, in a second name that only you know the full shape of. You drive for 6 hours. Somewhere around hour 4, your shoulders drop for the first time in years, a physical sensation you don't have a name for yet because you've never actually experienced it before. Not relief, exactly. Something closer to the feeling of a held breath finally released. The new apartment is smaller than you'd like. It doesn't matter. It's yours, unmonitored, unaudited, unowned by anyone but you. You set up your things slowly over the first week, and every small, unremarkable decision, where the couch goes, what to eat for dinner, whether to leave a light on, feels enormous. Because for the first time in your adult life, no one is going to ask you to justify it. The calls from your parents come daily at first, then weekly, then eventually settle into a rhythm you can manage instead of one that manages you. You answer some. You let others go to voicemail, something that would have once caused a 5-alarm panic in your chest, and now barely registers as a decision at all. 6 months into your new life, your business, no longer needing to hide behind a second identity now that you physically and financially separated from the people who made hiding necessary, quietly crosses $9,000 a month in consistent revenue. You could tell your parents now. Legally, financially, there's nothing left for them to control. But you find you don't want to. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. Because you've learned something about privacy that has nothing to do with money at all. Privacy isn't secrecy for its own sake. It's the space where a person actually gets to become themselves, uninterrupted. Some nights you still flinch when your phone buzzes, old muscle memory expecting an audit disguised as a question. Most nights now, it's just a notification, ordinary, harmless, nobody's business but your own. You built a fake name to escape a family that made your real name feel like property. And somewhere in the process of hiding, you found the only version of yourself no one had ever gotten to control in the first place. So here's the question you're left sitting with, late at night, in an apartment no one back home knows the address of. If the people who raised you built a cage out of love and called it protection, is disappearing the betrayal? Or is it the only door out?